today, just like every other day, is a getting a machine running video. We're gonna start getting the summer fleet ready with Ben's quad, and it's been sitting for quite a while, and it's having a hard time starting. Even with the primer, it'll get going, but it won't stay running unless you keep the choke on. Now that is a classic sign of the carb needing service. Only runs with the choke on, dies as soon as the choke's cut. So that tells me that the pilot jet is dirty. So we're gonna go in there, we're gonna clean this thing, and gonna get this thing moving again. So what we have is a 2004 Honda Foreman 450 ES. I think he has it bored out to a 500. I gotta double check with him on that. It already has it. I mean, it's just a little Honda. It's got the lift kit in it already, believe it or not, which is, yeah, you can see it. This is the lift kit right here, and it's also got these big old Executioner tires on it. So as you can imagine, this thing rides like a little bit of a chuck wagon. You thought the Honda was rough before? Well, do this to it, and then tell me how you feel about it. It's also got the exhaust on it, as beat up as it is, and I think maybe just a K&N intake as well. Let's have a quick look here. Yeah, and he's got a K&N filter on it as well, which is pretty dirty. I'm just kind of pointing those couple things out for one reason. It's that once you get a quad like this and you change the elevation and you go to an aftermarket exhaust and an aftermarket intake, and in this case it's got a sleeve in it, a larger sleeve in it, a lot of the time, most of the time, almost every time, they will not run right after you do all that work. And it's because you also have to change the jetting in the carb. I mean, forgetting the sleeve and just doing the exhaust and intake, oftentimes you'll find that the quad just does not run right anymore. So in that case, you actually have to go and oftentimes FMF will have a jetting chart for their exhaust. So you have to go in and you have to rejet your carb. Now this one's been done, but it's not running well, which tells me that the carb is dirty, because I don't think Ben's ever done it, and it does do a whole lot of sitting. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get into the carb and we're gonna get her fixed. Okay, as we get into this thing, and I noticed there are more missing parts, and exhaust shield's a little loose. Our carb is under this. You can actually see it down in here, and a lot of people are saying that these carbs have a primer, which they do, which is this right here. Now that I've given that a couple of pumps, if the battery's any good, this quad will likely start. But I did have it warmed up before. It's not staying running unless I leave the choke on. I'm actually gonna work outside here today since it is such a nice day out and there is no wind, and the garage is full of things that don't run already. We're gonna work on this one outside with just basic tools. It's an easy job. You don't need anything too complicated to do a carb. You do need some knowledge. That's what you need to do a carb, knowledge. As we get in here, we got this dirty carb exposed. That's okay if the outside's dirty, we're more worried about the inside. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna make sure that the fuel is in the off position, because our fuel is that line there, and we're gonna be taking that off. We got vent lines, that is the choke cable, that is the throttle cable, air in and air out to the manifold there. So we're gonna have to disconnect all that stuff. Some machines have carb heaters, which means there's a coolant line running to the carburetor. This is an air-cooled unit. It's not super common, but it is something that some of the V-twins have on the Brute Forces. The 650s have them. Not all of them, but some of them do. So that is one more thing that you'll have to deal with, is coolant lines, but we don't got to worry about this on this carb because it's an air-cooled engine. Alright, so we got our carb out now. We're going to give this thing a full cleaning and servicing. This is a vacuum slide type carb, which means that the slide is actually controlled by the vacuum of moving air, and that's what controls your needle position within the carb. So let's break into it and see how dirty this thing is. There's still going to be a little bit of fuel in the bowl, so we're going to make sure that that's all cleared up. So now we have everything apart on this carb. I did not take the float out because I am not replacing the needle and seat, and I don't like touching it because a lot of this new fuel is really corrosive. So it'll actually eat away at that little, it's like a little kind of nylon rubbery needle that controls your fuel. That's what controls your fuel, is that part right in there, that little tiny needle that goes up and down with the travel of the floats. So I'm not going to touch that because so oftentimes you touch it and it starts leaking. So I'm just going to make sure it's working and it's clear of debris. I'm pretty particular about placement of stuff. So we got a couple of different things here happening. We got the bowl, the jetting, fuel valve, or fuel control, fuel air control, jet, and then vacuum slide assembly is all right there. Now, even though this carb looks, it looks fairly clean, a lot of the time is this guy right here, and I haven't checked him yet, will have partial or full blockage. A lot of the time it's partial, and it just will run, but it won't stay running on its own, or you have to control the idle so high that it actually gets onto a different circuit and the machine is now idling too high. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up all these parts, and I'm going to work on stuffing them back in. This is that primer you guys are talking about, and if I give it a squirt, yeah, so that is how that works. So it basically just is a squirt of fuel right into the throat of the carb. So this guy here, he is the problem, like I suspected. I'm not going to be able to show you this because the orifice is so small. Oh, you can kind of see it. Okay, so that is actually, you can just barely see it. That is actually partial blockage. So that is actually not clean the whole way through. Basically, there's old fuel gummed up in there, and Ben said it's just not starting like it used to, and this guy is why, because this is your starter jet here. It controls basically your idle and starting. So I'm going to clean out that orifice the whole way, and then I'll show you what it looks like after. So much of the time, it's this guy that's the problem. Now, if you don't have any fancy tools, you can actually get yourself just a little bit of wire. There you go, just any old 12-volt wire will do. This is actually my favorite thing to do, is just send it through there. Make sure that they're all clear, which they should be. So now let's lift it up and take a look at this pilot jet. So there you go, you can actually see the difference. It is, that hole is free and clear of debris. So much of the time it's this guy that is the problem, and now that we've got it clean, you can see the whole way through. And this will be the proper fuel flow now for starting and running and idling. I'm gonna get it all back together. I'm gonna clean everything else, all the other jets. I'm gonna clean the slide out, gonna clean the carb, and make sure that this thing is ready to go back together, because nothing worse than, having everything back together and finding out that you put something wrong in, especially when it comes to your needle jet. And this is an emulsion tube, and you have to have that in after the jet holder, because if you forget this, basically it will idle, but as soon as you get it to get on the throttle, this thing will over fuel so bad. So we're gonna just make sure that, just like we did with the pilot jet, we're gonna make sure all these other jets and holders are clean, all the other parts are clean, and then we're gonna put it all back together. Now that the carb's all back in, before we actually install the airbox properly and route everything exactly where it needs to be, we are going to turn on the fuel And I'm a little concerned about this choke because I'm not really sure it's operating properly. So we are going to test that out right away here. And there's no power. He's got the idle set pretty low on this. Battery is tired. And there you have it. The battery is weak on this thing, so we're going to get that charged up. But besides that, that's how it should be. That's how a Honda should start. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit if you've had a quad or something like that, a bike sled that's been sitting around for ages and it doesn't start. That's a damn good place to start. And that one was fairly clean because I've seen some pretty ugly ones in my day. Before I end this video, there's one question. What kind of a friend would I be if I didn't test this thing out for myself? All right, well, hopefully that helped some of you out. It's all part of getting the fleet ready for the summer. I've got probably 3 or 4 more carb services to do on various things around here, so yeah, I'm gonna have to get to her in a couple days here and make sure everything's ready to go, because we are so sick of having everything ready last minute and nothing works, and we gotta leave tomorrow. Thank you all for your support in this video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below, hit the like. Don't be afraid to leave a comment, and this is all part of getting the fleet ready for the summer because we got lots of stuff to do. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Well,